Have you ever wondered what it's like to immerse yourself in the arts and history of Italian cities? Stay tuned to hear all about the new Honors Study Abroad program, Italy Art of Innovation, on a special edition of the Honorable Podcast coming up next. Hey, Honors Bulls! We're back with another bonus episode of the Honorable Podcast. Today we are talking all about the Honors Italy Art of Invention program. The Honors Art of Invention program is a 2-week experience where students will follow the Leonardo da Vinci Trail from Rome to Florence to Milan, exploring the intersections of art, science, and innovation. Students will journey into the world of art and innovation through the lens of historic Italian cities, while learning about the influential thinkers and artists in the heart of picturesque Italy. We are here with Honors Professor Tina Piracci, who is going to share all the important details about this new trip through historic Italian cities. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Tina Piracci. I'm one of the full-time instructors here at the Honors College, and I teach in the areas of intersection, so that might be between art and the environment or art and technology, so that's why we're looking at this Art of Invention trip.
Could you give us a brief description of the trip as a whole, and what is the Honors Florence Art of Invention program, how you kind of came up with it?
Yeah, for sure. So being someone who was always in the intersection between art and engineering, I was always a really big fan of Da Vinci, and seeing all the kinds of interdisciplinary practices we have here at the Honors College, I thought what better opportunity than to go to Italy and follow the footsteps of Da Vinci. And so following Da Vinci's trail, which leads through a lot of Italy, but we'll be focusing on Rome, Florence, and Milan, also with a day trip to Lecco, where the Wanderer's Trail is, where Da Vinci had thought of some of his most thoughtful breakthroughs. And so on that trip, we'll kind of be ideating and brainstorming for our own plans as well.
So could you tell us a little bit more of what a day in the life would look like for students on the trip? What hands-on experiences will they be kind of digging into while they're there?
Yeah, for sure. So over the 2 weeks, we'll be kind of jumping from city to city. So we will have 2 free days to kind of allow for some breath between the activities. But starting in Rome, of course, we'll be seeing some of the historical architecture. And then in Florence, we'll be greeted with our partner university, Florence University of the Arts, or FUA. And we'll be having our welcome dinner there at Fedora, which is actually part of their culinary art program. So we'll have nice food pairings and a good practice of Italian culture. And then as we kind of go through our different excursions, we'll be seeing both sides of the art world. So the historical art museums, of course, the Sistine Chapel, Statue of David, the Last Supper, all sorts of well-renowned art pieces, but then also looking at this through a contemporary lens and visiting CRETA Rome, which is an art studio in Rome in which they're looking at innovative ways of clay 3D printing. And since a lot of our art students are researching clay 3D printing, I thought this would be a great opportunity to see the behind the scenes of the art world, to see what contemporary artists are doing in practice. So that way we can kind of look at ancient tradition, look at innovation, and see what inspires us between the two.
I think there's so much room for, in the art realm, to kind of merge art with technology together and really come up with a lot of innovations that will help us, especially when it comes to things like the environment or just any problems that we have as humans. So I'm really excited to see what kind of hands-on activities students will have. Kind of leading with that, what do you think students will kind of gain from their study abroad experience?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of the deliverable for this 2-week excursion, the idea is for students to dream big and come up with some type of innovation. And so this will vary by student, by major, because it is a very interdisciplinary program calling to students from all different majors. And we'll be looking to propose some kind of big idea. Now, whether that's a traditional invention idea or an idea for a nonprofit for those change makers out there, it'll be something that is inspired by the trip. So what that might look like will vary between the students, but ideally just coming upon some kind of breakthrough innovation and kind of discussing what that prototype or proposal or what it would require to execute that idea. And so it could be a proposal for an art piece or an installation, or it could be a proposal for some kind of community group or organization or medical device.
So you mentioned that this trip, it really does focus on the students' project of, what they're creating, how they are inspired by the city and the museums that you guys are visiting. Who would be, the right student for this trip? Is it for artist students, or is it for, history students? Is there, like a target audience?
Yeah, so as someone who's always kind of jumped between topics, I don't think this is particularly for any particular degree. I'm sure it will resonate with art students, with engineers, with scientists, but really because the project throughout the 2 weeks is to come up with some type of proposal within your own interests, I think it really calls out to any kind of major, because we'll be exploring what are those things in the world that you would like to see change? How could you implement tools to facilitate that change? And so that will really vary by major. And so I would say it's really for anyone.
So this is one of our newest honors trips. And so I'm sure a lot of students are wondering, what is life in the cities in Italy like? What can they expect in regards to like activities and things to do outside of, their main excursions and coursework?
For sure. I mean, I think in Italy, our classroom will be the city. And so we'll have meetings in parks or in museums or in particular sites, perhaps on one of the trails at Lake Como. And so trying to immerse yourself in Italian culture between the popular bustling cities, but then also those tucked away smaller towns like the city of Vinci, where Leonardo was born, or Lake Como, which is a more reprieve of nature and kind of a hiking scene that we can do on our last day as a reflection of the program. And so though we'll be busy and we'll have many tasks, we'll find those moments to kind of collect our ideas and be able to reflect and try to consider what those innovations we might want to propose may be.
And I wanted to ask, is there anything that you're most looking forward to on the trip, whether it's like seeing a certain museum or a piece of art or any kind of food?
That's an interesting question. The first thing I think of is my study abroad experience. And so I'm just so excited to see my students go through that same experience. And when I was an undergrad at USF, I had done the Paris and London study abroad program. And that was so impactful for me. And the project deliverable is actually inspired from that trip because Ezra Johnson, who is one of the amazing painting teachers here at USF, he had led the program. And that studio art program, we had a project where we had to dream big and kind of propose some kind of art project that we wouldn't necessarily usually take on. And I was really excited about that project and kind of proposed a grand idea of building this large machine. And when I was there, I didn't really think I would end up doing it per se. But then once we returned, that ended up becoming my thesis. And so seeing how that study abroad trip really formed my undergraduate experience just from this prompt of think of something that you don't actually have to do, because then you kind of release all of that stress of, okay, well, what would I do if I could do anything? And I think that prompt really inspired me. And so I'm excited to see how that inspires my students and how they enjoy the study abroad trip as well.
Yeah, I think in their nature, study abroad trips really do inspire students to think differently because you're out of your comfort zone. You're not near your family or your friends like you usually are. And so it does open you to a lot of, different ways of thinking and opportunities, and it's something that sticks with you forever. And I'm sure after, hearing all that you've planned for this trip, that students are really excited to join. So I was just wondering if students are interested, where can they find more information and how can they sign up for the trip?
So on the honors website for study abroad, it's listed under the trips there. So you can find detailed information on the trip, and that'll also be the link to apply. And the deadline is October 15th, but it doesn't hurt to apply early. So make sure to get your applications in before the 15th.
Thank you so much for being here and talking to us about the program. We're really excited to see how it goes this year.
Likewise. Thanks, everyone.
And that's all for today. If you're interested in trips like the Italy Art and Invention program, check out USF Honors Study Abroad website for more information on how to get involved. That'll do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Sandra Napolitano. Thank you all so much for listening, and please do not forget to rate and review our podcast, as we appreciate your feedback. We'll be back next week with more honors stories, so stay tuned for more episodes where we talk more honors study abroad. Until next time, go Bulls!